I mean, one of the main things that you want to think about with your product is what problems is it solving, and does it make someone's life easier or better? Because, and this is more to do with like invented products that aren't already proven. If your product isn't solving a problem, then you have to figure out like, why is it even existing?
Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Selena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. So much has been happening around here. I cannot believe it. I'm slightly overwhelmed when I think about all the things that are happening in the next 3 months. Right now, we are gearing up to head off to Melbourne for Reed Gift Fair, where we will be giving free strategy sessions for retail and e-commerce store owners. So if that's something that you are interested in and you're heading off to Reed Gift Fairs, make sure you head over to scaleyourstore.com/Reed and grab your spot before they're gone. I am so excited about a big in-person event because it has been so long since we've had a chance to do this. And if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that COVID killed our plans to do Reed Gift Fairs in Sydney. But we are back. We are better than ever. We have some fantastic things to talk about with you guys. Honestly, the fun stuff is like designing the exhibition stand. We have been going back and forth. What colors do we want? All those sorts of things, because what we had planned for Sydney is completely different. Because now we have to ship everything down to Melbourne, the logistics that are involved it just meant that we could spruce it all up and give it a good shake out and start something fresh and new. So if you are coming to Reed in Melbourne, make sure you grab one of those complimentary strategy sessions where we can deep dive into your business, give you some advice, talk about all the pillars and which one you should be working on. scaleyourstore.com/Reed. Okay, so that is the next thing that we have. Just after that, I am heading off to go skiing for a weekend, a long weekend, and that should be fun. But again, if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that back at the beginning of the year, I tweaked something in my back, and it's a muscular thing, not a back thing, but it meant that I couldn't walk for quite some time. Now, my problem is that has actually happened 3 times since the beginning of the year, and I've been going to physio, I've been going to chiro, and basically what they've come up with is I am too hypermobile in my joints. They just won't stick together properly. And so this means that every time my hips or my SI joint goes out, I can't walk for about a week or 2, and I am in a lot of pain, which is where I am right now. Yep, it flared up again on Friday. I've been hobbling around and just, grimacing in pain, but that's okay. We've got a plan of action. We are ready to tackle this thing head on. But I am slightly wary about the fact that I have so many things booked in. And if my hip or the joints, if my hypermobile joints go all ridiculously floppy again, it might mean that I can't walk. But I'm trying to just put that out of my mind. I've got a great physio who tells me I'm not broken. I love that she's so mindset focused. So Reed Gift Fairs, followed by skiing, followed by the Retail Academy Live. OMG, how excited are we about this? Yes, 2 years we've had to put off this event. Thank you very much. Not thank you, COVID. And the excitement that we have for this event is through the roof. We're planning 2 events at the same time, like Reed Gift Fairs and the TRA Live, is, like I said, it gets a bit overwhelming if you think about it too much, but we have all of this mapped out in project management software. So we're going through, and look, if you are coming to TRA Live, can I just say, make sure to grab your ticket like ASAP, because we are strictly limited by the venue on how many tickets we can allocate. And the venue is gorgeous. TRA Live is also down in Melbourne at this beautiful venue on the golf course, but they have been very, very strict about how many people we can have in the venue. So if you are coming along, make sure you jump into the Retail Academy portal, put your $50 deposit down to book your seat. We also have VIP options coming up. I'm just finalising the last of the goodies that you'll be getting if you want to come as a VIP. Now, if there are any tickets left over, and then look, there hasn't been in the past, but given the fact that some international people don't feel comfortable traveling just yet, if there are any tickets going to be left available, I will make sure to let you guys know. But if you have been inside of my programs, if you've got one of those lovely golden tickets, make sure to grab your seat. Okay, so Reed Gift Fairs, skiing, TRA Live, and then I'm flying 2 weeks later off to America. I know. See what I mean? When you think about it all as a whole, it is so overwhelming. I just have to keep breaking it down and checking into Asana, like even my holidays in Asana, project managing everything out to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Oh, and what I haven't mentioned is during all of this, I've just produced a brand new course called How to Create a Crazy Successful Sales Campaign in Just a Weekend. Yep, I literally just uploaded the last video. It goes live tomorrow. And all of these things could not have happened if I didn't have an amazing team. And over the last couple of months, again, if you've been listening, you'll know that I've done some hiring and I've also done some firing. I think next week I'm going to try and find the time to record a podcast about pushing the reset button and all the things that have happened since I did that when I got COVID back in March, I think that was. So many things have happened. There's been lots of highs, there's been lots of lows, but the trajectory has changed and it is moving upwards fantastically. But I will let you in on all of that in another episode really, really soon. Alrighty, so what are we discussing in today's podcast? In today's show, I've got Nicole De Larzac, who is a product business coach, coming on to talk all about how you can add products into your business, your own products. Now, you don't have to make them yourself. We talk about the different ways that you can create new products to bring in your business. We talk about the pros and the cons of those different ways, but personally, from someone who has had a retail and e-commerce business and a wholesale business, and we even had a home party plan business as part of our retail store. We had all the different avenues, and having our own products, our own branded products, meant that one, we became known for quite a few of our products, but two, we really diversified how our income was coming in. And we had these products that had high volume, high margin, which if you have been inside of Scale Your Store, you know that that is the golden grail. That is the holy grail. That is the golden goose, the high volume, high margin products. In fact, some of those products became so popular, as I said, we went on to wholesale them. I believe having your own products in your business is almost an essential. And if you don't have them now, then you should certainly be looking at adding that into your product mix in the very near future. So in today's episode, Nicole is actually going to go through the different types of products, like I said, the different ways that you can incorporate into the business and how much these things are going to cost. Alrighty, I hope to see you really, really soon in person, whether you are coming to see us at Reed Gift Fairs, whether you're coming to TRA Live, maybe you're heading over to Traffic and Conversion Summit over in the US in September. If you are, please make sure to drop me a line and let me know, and we'll have to catch up. Okay, let's jump into today's episode with Nicole De Larzac. Now, I used to have a large range of products that we used inside of our store. We had white label products, we manufactured our own products, we did collaborations with product owners, and I love them because what you get out of them is a completely different range that has your name attached to the brand. And you also end up with kind of an alternative source of income as well. So today on the show, I've got Nicole De Larzac to tell us all about how you guys can do this in your retail and e-commerce stores as well. So Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Selena.
It's taken a little while for us to finally get here and record this episode. So why don't you give us a bit of a recap on how you ended up talking about creating products to go in with your own existing stores?
Sure. Yeah. So my background is in marketing, and I always was working for large companies like Coca-Cola and Kraft Foods. And then eventually we actually moved to Australia for a few years. Fun fact. Yes. And we lived in Sydney, and I actually had my first child in Australia. And that's when I realized, I don't know if I can go back to the corporate life. And I thought, well, the way to have flexibility is to create my own business to do that. So I started a business importing foods from South America, selling it to large retail chains like Woolworths. You'd be familiar with Woolworths and Nicoles. And so did that for a few years. It was great to get into those large retail stores. And then we eventually moved back to Canada and I sold my business. But then I thought, well, gee, I know there are other people, entrepreneurs like me, and especially women who, have that life change and want more flexibility, who want to start a business and just don't know how, because I learned so much by doing that. And I learned a lot from my marketing consumer product career. So I decided to coach women mostly, but any entrepreneurs to launch or scale their product business. So kind of fast forward to where we are today. And yeah, I love to talk about how adding a line of your own products is really helpful for your business as well.
I have to reverse up there a little bit and go, how the heck did you decide that importing foods from South America was going to be your thing? Because most people end up with a business centered around something that they know quite well. Lots of people go into the baby and lots of women go into baby and kids industries, or we find a product that we really love and we're like, the whole world has to find it. Importing, well, I've done importing, not the easiest thing in the world to even start off with, but importing food, again, you've just put another obstacle in the chain of things because food is so difficult. How did you decide food from South America?
Okay, so that is a good question. So actually, it was really more of a turnkey business because I actually never had started my own business. So I thought, what can I do that I think could be really, could actually work here? And I knew somebody who was doing this in Canada. So he had his own business in Canada and was already importing from South America. And so he had all the systems set up and the suppliers and knew how to do it. So I just said, hey, I'll take that. I'll expand your business over here. And so that's how it got started. Otherwise, I would never have found that niche. No, you're right. I don't know anything about food from South America, and let alone importing and, selling to private label and things like that. That's all stuff that I didn't know. But what I will say is that you don't actually have to start your business from scratch. You can look at other people who are doing the same thing, expand their business, maybe purchase an existing business. So there's other ways to become an entrepreneur, become a business owner.
I have so many questions I want to ask you, but I have to butt in there and say, I've been listening to, I don't know if you listened to the Business Lunch podcast with Roland Fraser and Ryan Dice. They talk a lot about how to grow. They talk about growing your business quite fast by quite often acquiring other businesses in your niche. And they have a whole program around how you can do it with no money down. But it's why would you start this from scratch? Why would you go through all the same hurdles and all the same teething issues when somebody else has already done it and you can just go, all right, thanks, I can make that better. And when you think about it, it seems so obvious, doesn't it? But no, entrepreneurs all have to make life way more difficult than it needs to be. So kudos to you for seeing that somebody already had this and you could just go, I'll just take that and make it work here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. And another point is that you don't actually have to invent a new product. Look at what is out there and you can make it different, better, as long as you have some sort of value proposition to what you're creating. But Yeah, you don't have to build everything from scratch.
Okay, I want to ask you, and I know this is not necessarily where the conversation was going, and I promise we'll get there soon, but getting into stores, we could probably do a whole podcast on this. My first question is, how did you create that value proposition for a product which you just admitted you didn't really know anything about? So your friend was doing it, but how do you create a whole business around something that you're not passionate about, you're not emotionally invested in, but yet you've obviously grown it to a point where big grocery stores wanted to do it. So what did that process look like?
Well, as I said, I didn't invent anything new. So I did know, and I made sure that I knew what was different about these products. So I spoke to the person I partnered with and as well as the supplier to figure out what really stood out for the products that we were sourcing. Now, let me tell you, I was not passionate about them because it was canned. Let me tell you, this is canned and jarred fruits and vegetables. So like canned asparagus, which is actually very big in Australia.
Do you know what I really want to... all these recipes I see, is it Rotello tomatoes, the canned tomatoes? It's a brand. And I'm like, what is these tomatoes everybody talks about? And so next time I go back to America, I'm going to find these damn canned tomatoes and make some enchiladas with them.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know that, but yeah, anyway, so canned asparagus, how do you differentiate, right? Like it's a commodity, basically.
Yeah.
So you find ways, and I made sure that like whoever I was representing was differentiated. And so a lot of the things were about like the quality control methods were so different and so superior than other companies, or the quality of the product. And we talked about like how thick the asparagus spears were and like how long they cooked them for and all these different things. So there's only so many ways you can differentiate canned asparagus, but we did get into like more of the quality control and the service that we provide and all that kind of stuff. And of course, the cost and everything and the supply. That's supply chain is really big right now. So if you can get the supply, then it's really differentiated. So yeah, you have to be creative sometimes, but you want to make sure that you are competitive and you're not just competing on cost, because anybody can compete on cost. But the other thing I'd say is what you can do, and we couldn't do with as much with private label, but you can compete on brand, which is another story. Like you're creating a product, but you're also creating a brand, and a brand can be differentiated in so many ways and create this whole unique aura about it that just like a widget or a regular product can't, right?
I am so passionate. One of our 5 pillars of retail success is impact. And we kind of define that as building a brand, not just a store. So when someone, the ultimate, the pinnacle is when someone uses your brand as an adjective, like I'm going to Google something. But if you can build a brand that people connect with, so even if it is your store name, having that brand gives you like instant status, and it just inflates everything. And it just, to me, your brand just escalates quite dramatically. And I guess that's the perfect segue into creating a brand when you build your business, and not just a store, means you can add these products in with your name on them, with your brand's name on them, and people will trust that and buy it. So we're not necessarily saying it's, a home brand or a no-frills label. What we're saying is actually this stuff is good enough for us to put our name on it.
That's right. Yeah. And so people trust you, and then they will trust your product that you put out there.
So tell us the benefits of doing this. And we'll talk about the different ways that you can do it. But what are the benefits of adding your own line of products into your store?
Okay. Yes. That's a good question. So first of all, you have these products in your store. So, and you're promoting other products. So you might as well promote your own brand if you're going to have your own products there. And the other thing is you might as well be making the full margin on the product, because of course you are buying it from someone else and, they've got a markup. So you could do the same thing and own that markup. Also, you're going to be building loyalty with your customers. They're going to want to come back to your store. They can only get it at your store. And you're going to have this like staying power with them, and you're going to be more memorable to them. Then also there's other things like you have control over the supply chain and the stock. You can sell your products to other stores. You can actually expand your retail footprint, right? Yeah.
That's what we did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. And you can also be a gateway to bring them to your store because, they'll try it somewhere else and then maybe they'll want to come to your store and find other items like higher priced items as well. So there's so many different reasons, but I think like one of the biggest things is just building that brand awareness and brand loyalty. You might as well do it.
Yeah, yeah. And if anyone is doubting that this is an option for them, I just want to point out that Amazon do this a lot.
Right.
And you can take what Amazon do and 100% implement this in your business. So what Amazon will do is they will pick like the top 5 products in different categories and go and manufacture the exact same thing under the Amazon brand. But they let you pay to test it out on the market. And so same thing with you, like what are those really high selling product, like high volume products that you can look at implementing as well. And I love the fact, I don't know if we have time to go through all of those different things that you talked about, but for us, we did it in a few different ways. We did some white labeling with a product that was a consumable product. And what it did was, even though we didn't sell it as a loss leader, but we pretty much sold this like a travel size of this foaming hand cleanser. We pretty much sold it at cost, but we gave people free refills. And I can guarantee you no one ever came in for a free refill without buying anything. If nothing else, because they felt guilty. I'm okay with that if you're going to spend money. But quite often, I think the travel size was about 50 mils. So that's a couple of ounces. But people would come in and buy like a litre of it. So they wouldn't get the free refill. They would pay for, the pint.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think.
Oh, wow.
You're Canadian, right? So you can work in metric like me.
Yeah, exactly.
So they wouldn't necessarily use the free refill service, but it was that thing that drove them back again and again and again. And so people would come in like once a week or once a fortnight or once a month, depending on which size they bought. But they always kind of did it as a bit of an excursion as well. It was like, oh, I'm going to get my foamy wash refilled. So it's kind of a day out. Like I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some shopping. And so the brand awareness was there.
Right.
We just white labeled somebody else's product because it already worked. And it drove people back to the store again and again and again. And of course, we made a lot more money because we were buying it in 25-litre drums and just decanting it rather than buying it in little tiny bottles. So it had all the levels of things that you were talking about when it came to brand awareness. And then from there, we kind of went to different products. And it was always those products that people loved to buy. I mean, you're kind of silly if you don't make your own version if it's possible, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point that you made, that you are actually testing with other products first, seeing what people are buying, and then you create your own version of that. So you've got like the perfect little test tube or whatever it's called. You got the perfect
testing environment,
laboratory where you can figure out
litmus test.
That's
sure.
The word. That's great.
That's what we're going with.
And so you can see what works, and then you launch your own version of it. It's perfect, and that's what the retailers are doing. Like, as I mentioned, Woolworths, they would launch their own private label products of the stuff that's already working. So yeah, it's a great strategy. And I love the fact that you brought people back through some kind of loss leader or something just to get them in the store. Because once they're in the store, that's when they're going to buy more. You just need to get that traffic. Yeah.
If you've got the right customers, they're not the freeloaders who just come back for free.
Yeah,
when you've got good customers, I don't care if you feel a bit guilty coming back for your refill. Yeah. Realistically, I don't make you buy anything. That's up to you.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to anyway. So
exactly. So tell us how you go about evaluating what kinds of products. So when you're working with someone who comes to you and says, Nicole, I've got a retail business and I hear you talking about products. I feel like that's something we should add into our business. What kind of advice do you give them?
Yeah, so we look at a number of different things. One thing I would say is look at the market, like what's happening in the market. Is it trending? Is it on point with what consumers are looking for? So, things like eco-friendly products, really on trend right now. People are looking for that. And so I would look at the market, do some market research, look at search tools like Google Trends or Trend Hunter is a report that comes out. You can already just do a bit of background research. The other thing is getting feedback. So perfect way to get feedback is already to sell the products within your store. But if not, and you're launching something new, maybe doing some research with your own customers and seeing what they like, and if you can just test something new with them first. And then I would also say, like, as you mentioned, consumable products.
Love consumable products.
Yes, consumable or repeat purchases are great because it's really difficult, especially these days with the higher costs of ads
but ad costs in general, because especially e-commerce has soared because of the pandemic. Everybody wants a slice of the digital pie. So ads everywhere are going up.
Exactly. So ads are going up. And so you've got that increasing cost of acquisition. So once you get a customer, you want to keep them and keep them coming back to your store. So consumable products are a great way to do that, or even just subscription or repeat purchases.
I was going to say subscription is the new terrazzo. Terrazzo was like popular a couple of years ago, right? But subscription is, and I closed my stores. Well, I sold my stores about 8 years ago now. And a lot of the things we did then, we did very manually. That everything is now automated. So if someone bought like a baby carrier, we had a book where it was like, send Nicole video number 2. And we had them hosted on the web. We'd send them an email. Someone would type up an email and send, hey, Nicole, here's the second video in our series. Nowadays, all that stuff is automated.
Right.
But even with that, like subscriptions, I have subscriptions for everything. I have subscriptions for toilet paper.
Oh, wow.
And it is literally, I get a box of 48 rolls. It lasts us 6 months.
Oh, wow.
But I also have a subscription for toilet paper for our Airbnb. So the cleaner never has to worry about whether there's toilet paper. And these days, doing that back in my day, God, I sound so old. I don't even know how we would have done that because it just wasn't a thing. Now you pay, $30, $40 for an app that plugs into your Shopify website and it does it all by itself. So anything, shampoo, conditioners, skincare, vitamins, like there is so much that you can automate as a subscription. You just go into your POS or go into your website and see like what has the highest repeat buyer rate, and your answer's right there. I feel like if you're not doing subscriptions in most businesses, then you're missing out on a lot of money.
That's so true. You're right. You could do that with any business if it's a repeatable purchase, or even if it's not a repeatable purchase. Like you think if you could just curate something that, is just different every month, like it could be a different craft every month or whatever.
Yeah, jewelry. I've got, we had a person who was in our Scale Your Store program who did a different jewelry box, a box of jewelry that went out it's fast fashion.
Oh, okay.
But it was like $30 a month and you got a pair of earrings and a necklace or something along those lines. It's just fun, right?
Yeah.
Subscription doesn't have to be, it's consumable, but it doesn't have to be a necessity.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a need. It can be something fun as well.
Yeah, just sort of surprise and delight people love that they get every month. Yeah, exactly. And then, there are other things that you could look at. One of the main things that you want to think about with your product is what problems is it solving, and does it make someone's life easier or better? Because, and this is more to do with like invented products that aren't already proven. If your product isn't solving a problem, then you have to figure out like, why is it even existing? So that's a basic thing. And then, how can you differentiate the product or the brand? What can you do to make it different, better from other things out there? And then I would also say, like, does it align with what you're already doing? So if you sell currently, like...
That's so important.
Yeah, like if you sell bath stuff, you don't want to go on and sell like hardware or something totally unrelated that doesn't fit with your brand.
Randomly, I was thinking hammers and you said hardware.
Oh, that's weird. It's on the same page.
Because that becomes really hard to convince your customers too. So maybe we're not talking that polar opposites, but even just bringing something in where your customers are kind of like, I have to think about that. Like anything they have to think about is a disconnect that's going to stop them from buying.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So all these things that you can think about, and there's probably more. Oh, and another thing is a lot of people want to invent something new, find a new niche, but there is magic in finding something that like people are already buying a lot of and just differentiating yourself. So if you look at the whole candle market that's exploded, everyone's making, handmade soy candles or handmade soaps. This is exploding. So, people are buying it. And that's sometimes a good thing. You can just start something different than what everyone else is doing. Of course, you want to position yourself differently and everything, but look at what people are already buying as well.
For a lot of people, that's the whole premise of Amazon FBA, right? It's like, what are the top selling things? I'll just put those in as well. What you haven't talked about is money, like price, cost of acquisition.
Yeah.
I like to make money. Can we talk a little bit about money?
Yes.
In all different forms when it comes to adding a product range into your business.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you want to make money. And I left that one out. That's true. Is it feasible to create? Like, is it, if you're going to invent a new car, probably not feasible for just the average person. So what can you feasibly create or sell or stock? Because sometimes, you also have to have some inventory. So you want to make sure that you can buy the product at a reasonable price. So yeah, definitely cost is a factor. And the other thing is, like, when you're just starting out, you do have to pay a bit more because you're going to have smaller minimum runs and everything. So you're going to have a smaller margin, and that's totally normal. But you want to make sure that whatever margin you do have, that you could eventually sell it at a price point that people are willing to pay for. And so, this is a whole other pricing discussion, but
I loved pricing. Let's talk about pricing discussions. I love pricing discussions.
Okay. Well, a lot of people price products. They think about their cost and then they mark up what they want the margin to be. And then it's 4 to 6 times typically the cost of the goods, at least. Because if you're going to sell to, say, to another store like wholesale and they sell it on, they're going to double the price. So
do you find people get caught out there? Sorry to jump in. Mm-hmm. Do you find people get caught out there at the beginning and they just go, okay, it cost me $10, so I'm going to sell it for $20? They don't actually think of that next step. They're thinking a little bit too small of I'm just going to sell it in my business.
Yes. They typically do. And they don't think about like selling it onwards on wholesale and everything. So
that's definitely something you're kind of saying, alert. Yeah. When you're looking at this, you're not just looking at doubling the price it costs you. You need to be thinking bigger than that.
Yeah, so you definitely need to be thinking of bigger. But what I like to say is, rather than thinking of cost plus pricing, think of value-based pricing. So think first of what someone's willing to pay for the product. And it could be 10 times what you are paying from the factory. So you just want to actually price it to the consumer, the end consumer, to what they are willing to pay. And then just ensure that you've got enough margin, of course, to be profitable. So I tend to look at it from both sides, but start with the value-based pricing first and make sure that what consumers are willing to pay for it. Is it something that's going to make money and so on?
Question. Do you find, because you said you work mostly with women, do you find that there is any, I'm going to call it guilt, maybe not the right word, any guilt associated with, let's just say, product costs you $10 to manufacture and you've worked out the market will pay $100. Do you find when you'll suggest, I think $100 is a good price for this, they're like, oh no, but it's only costing me 10?
There's definitely a different mindset for people, and to think about the value first, because definitely people want to make a fair margin, but they don't want to cheat anyone or whatever. And it's not really cheating anyone. It's just that's what the market's willing to pay. But I guess, people really have to get their head around it. And I would probably say that could be a female thing as well. Yeah.
We've brought this up quite a bit recently, but I know that we had the value-based pricing. I'm just kind of harping on about it because it is so important. Back when I had my stores, we sold wooden toys, and the guy who manufactured them, lovely, a decent sized company. And he worked with a company in China where he flew over there and everybody, was looked after really well. And it was a very community-based atmosphere. And he was really big about making wooden toys affordable for everyone. And so there was this wooden windmill stacker. So you sort of stacked all the rings up. And we bought it for $10. We sold it for $20. And people would come in. It was gorgeous. It was one of our top selling items, but it could have been more. Because people would come in and they would look at it and go, it's beautiful, but it's only $20. It's probably going to break. And so we did a test and we put the price up to $29.95, and we sold more in a week than we had sold in a month.
Wow.
Because at $30, they thought it was not cheap, but it was affordable. Like there was some value there. But at $20, it was too cheap to actually be any good. And so there was someone down the road selling it for $20, but we sold more of them than them because the supplier was like, I don't understand it. You're selling that for $10 more and you're ordering boxes of these things compared to the bigger store, like a baby emporium that was down the road. Like, what's the secret? I'm like, it's too cheap. So he was actually really smart. He took that and he put his sell price up to $14.95, his wholesale price. So, of course, everybody put the price up after that. But for this short period of time, we realized that, and I honestly think we probably could have sold that same toy at $49.95 and still done okay, because our customers expected a certain level of, not prestige, but a certain level of quality with our brand, because we were talking earlier about brand. So what do people associate with your brand? And a $20 thing was actually not in keeping with their expectation of what we sold. It was like, that must be the cheap, disposable kind of breakable thing that's a one-time use. Whereas at $30, it was affordable. We never actually tested it to go up, but I honestly, looking back, reckon we could have sold it for $49.95 and still sold as many as we did. So value is so important.
So interesting. Yeah, there is a price at which people will question the quality. So it's really important to hit that range of a price that's like not too much, they wouldn't consider it, but just in between.
So what are the other pitfalls that you find people, or maybe not pitfalls, but other obstacles that you find people encountering when they add a range into their brand?
Yeah, I think there are some main ones. One is brand positioning. So they try to be everything to everyone. They don't actually have a target market or target avatar. They kind of just like targeting everyone. And when you try to target everyone, you target no one. So always think of who's going to buy it and whose problem you're going to solve. And yeah, you're going to get other people along the way who are interested in, but always speak to your target consumer with your brand. Another one is, just not solving a problem with their product or not being differentiated enough, or like showing your differentiation somehow through your marketing or your branding or whatever. Because if you're just a copycat, then like there's no reason for people to purchase your product versus other products.
And you said there, like you kind of related this back to, you managed to do this for canned asparagus. So like, have any of your clients had that same product that's maybe a commodity or something that is quite generic, that you've been able to kind of say, here's how we differentiate it. Here's how, even if the target market is different, the story of Febreze, how it wasn't ever actually like a room, cleaning spray. But what they found was because the sales went down, what they found was women would spray it in the air after, 60s housewife, spray it in the air afterwards because they liked the fact that it smelled clean. So they actually revamped the entire concept of Febreze to be all about making your place smell clean over, I can't remember what they did before then. I got COVID brain at the moment, but that was not originally what it was built for.
Right.
Exactly. Post-COVID brain, it sometimes forgets things.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. So wait, going back to your question.
So have you had any clients where they've brought a really generic or commodity type product that doesn't have much of differentiation, and you've had to help them tease out how they make it stand out?
That's a good question. I mean, that's something that we work on as we're building the product. I'm trying to think back to any existing products. I'll think about that one.
Okay. While you think about that, I have a question for you. I was at a Shopify meetup the other day, and I was talking to, I'll talk to anyone, clearly, and I was talking to this young couple, and the boyfriend was telling me how he's in the hair product industry. And I was like, oh, great. What do you sell? He said, oh, we're developing our own product. Oh, yeah. What is it? Eventually, he finally admitted that it was, I don't know what these things are called. I actually own one and I've never used one. So clearly I succumbed to the Facebook ads as well. It's like a cylinder and you put your hair in it and it makes it
I've heard about
go curly.
this.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
like the opposite of a hair straightener, but it's like a cylinder.
Right.
You put a bit
That's
of hair in and it goes, and you end up with a curl.
Oh, see? Yeah.
Don't worry. I used it once and my hair got stuck in it and I was like, never again. It's sitting. And my hair's not really quite long enough. Like the girls in the ads had these beautiful, like long hair. And I was like, I want that Farrah Fawcett type hair as well, but it did not work for me. Anyway, so he said he was bringing those in. And I said, I got one of those for Mother's Day 2 years ago. Why are you bringing in? Because you talked about trends earlier on, like what's trending. And I said, why did you choose that product? And he said, well, everyone's selling them. And I said, okay, cool. This is so your story. And I said, so what makes yours different to the one that I bought? Or let's be honest, I just saw them in Kmart the other day, and the minute that they're in Kmart, the trend's gone. And he said, my branding. And I said, what's your brand called? And he goes, I don't have a brand yet.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm a bit confused here. Your branding is what's going to set you apart, but you don't have a brand. And he said, yeah, I have to build the brand. I feel like getting a different product might be a little bit easier.
Right.
I walked away from the conversation going, I really sounded like a bitch, but I'm confused. I don't know why you would bring in a product that is probably at the end of its trend and rely on your brand that doesn't actually exist yet to be the differentiator.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of scary.
So when it comes to trends, I'm just going to go back to that conversation. When it comes to trends, how do you know whether you're on like at the beginning or at the middle or you're at the tail end? Because it's easy to invest a lot of money, especially if we're talking about getting products manufactured. I quite like white labeling because someone else has already done the work for you. But how do you know if you're going to get on the trend wagon,
right?
Whether you're going to end up with a crap ton of stock you can't move?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know what it's called, but there's a curve of when things start to become mainstream and then kind of fizzle out. So I would say if you can hit before they become mainstream, then you're probably, on the right path. But I guess the risk there is that does it ever become mainstream? But you can start to see it. Like I could see with, iced tea. I was working on iced tea way back at Coca-Cola, and we were looking at ways to grow the category. And I was looking at kombucha as one of those, very new products. It was very, very niche. And Coca-Cola, of course, thought it was way too niche. They would never do it. But I wouldn't be surprised if someday they get into kombucha. So
they already have. Oh, it's in Australia.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
No, come on, really?
Kombucha, yeah.
Well, kombucha is definitely there, but Coca-Cola got into it? I don't know.
I feel like they bought one of the craft brands. I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Possibly.
If they didn't, well, because Nestle did.
Oh,
so competition, right? So of course, if one does it, the other one has to do it. I'd have to Google, but I kind of vaguely remember reading that they bought one of the craft brands.
Yeah.
It's still under the craft brand label, but it's it's part of their stable of products.
Right. So if you're looking at something that seems quite niche right now, that could be a good indicator that. And it's on trend with the macro trends of people looking for healthier options. Keto is another example of one of those things that came up started a few years ago, and now it's kind of mainstream, really. So yeah, I would say.
I kind of figure if you can see it in Kmart or Walmart, you've missed the trend.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good.
You're too late.
That's right. Yeah.
I cut in on you we were talking about. The
pitfalls.
The kind of advice that, the pitfalls and advice.
Yeah. And I think another one is trying to scale too quickly. And, for example, get into a big chain right in the beginning when you don't have proven demand and you don't really have that repeatable demand and proven demand with consumers. So, for example, I do now have a friend who had gotten into or started to launch this one product and wanted to scale really quickly and got listings at two of the biggest chains in Canada. And so they ordered containers of this product. And for some reason, those stores canceled their orders. So they were stuck with this product. And it was also food. So, of course, it expires and perishable. Yeah. And so they had to really fold their business. So that's really sad. I think it's best to start small, see, how the velocity goes in the smaller stores, build a following, build from sort of grassroots and kind of get a proven model first before you go gangbusters with building that.
I feel like we could get you back on to talk about getting your product into those big chain stores, but it's my big aversion to people who want to do it because they don't understand the nature of things like that store can cancel 5 containers worth of product and they won't pay you anything. There's no cancellation fee. Like they write these contracts 100% in their favor. And if they want to discount the product, they're not losing any money. The discount comes off sell price. So there are so many things working against you that I feel like you almost have to have the alternative revenue streams to be able to combat if you lose money in any of those areas. But being stocked in Target or Walmart or Kmart or whoever, that should not be your holy grail because it can go wrong on so many different levels. It should just be like another income stream.
Exactly, because it's very risky if you lose that one customer or if they have to write everything off, then you could lose your business. So great to start small and grow from there. Nobody likes to hear that, but
no, but also you were just saying like test it out. Like I like the way you're making people think bigger. It's you're saying, get this product in, put it under your brand. So you're building your own brand. And then because we've put the price the margin in on the sell price, we're value pricing, you can now sell that to other stores. And we did that with several of our products. So now your brand is sitting in your competitors' stores because they've purchased this thing that clearly you sell so well that they've got to have a piece of the pie. So that is just smart business, is you are now getting a piece of your competitors' revenue because they're buying from you. That is thinking bigger and thinking differently and not just kind of thinking in this little silo of I've just got my one business here and I sell other people's stuff. It's like, actually, no, you're my competitor, but you can be paying me as well. Thank you very much.
For sure. Yeah. And actually, I have to say, I don't like to categorize female traits or anything like that, but sometimes we need to think bigger. We short sell ourselves.
You can't see this, but in the background, you can see like a picture of a flower. Can you see that?
Picture of a flower? There? No. Oh, yes. Yeah, I can see that.
In the front. Yeah. So you can't see the left-hand side because it's a pole in the way, but it is actually a print a friend of mine did as an artist that we give to all of our Scale Your Store people. And on it, she's written Think Big.
Oh.
And I love that whole concept of having something like a flower, which is emerging and just reminding you that thinking big is just thinking differently.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be scary. It just is thinking outside the box and
exactly
what could happen if it all works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like how big do you want it to be? And what do you want it to do? Like people often limit themselves, but they don't think about ultimately where they want their business to go. Although some people don't want a huge business and that's totally fine too. You can have a small business. That's great. Maybe you just want to keep it small.
Okay. Why do people come to you though? What is not necessarily clearly you're good at what you do because you wouldn't be here if you weren't, but let me rephrase that. What's their reason when they come to you? Like what has pushed them to say, I need to develop, white label, create a product because? Like what's the because?
Well, first of all, why they create a product could be different than why they come to me. But usually they come to me after they've already Googled and gotten frustrated and just they thought they can do it on their own. And then they realize that, oh gosh, this is really confusing and overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So that's usually when they come to me. It's like, I've thought about it, but not really sure. And they start to question themselves. And maybe they start with usually a lot of people start with logo right away, right? And they start in the wrong spot, right? So they skip forward and you're like, no, wait a second. Let's just start from the basics. Ensure we've got a product that solves a problem and ensure you test it first and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's usually when they feel overwhelmed.
Why do they want the product in the first place?
Oh, why do they want the product in the first place? Well, that's a good question too, because people tend to want to launch a product either because they've been thinking about this, and usually they've been thinking about it for a long time because they can't find it themselves. And so they think, well, I'll just create it. And usually that percolates and they think about it and either they do something about it or they don't. And if they don't do something about it, somebody else typically does it for them. So people typically want to launch a product to solve their own problem, or they see a need in the market and they're like, okay, nobody else is doing this, I should do it. And also financial.
Can I jump in there? Mm-hmm. How many times do you find that someone is actually already doing that thing, or that product has pretty much already been created?
Oh, many times. Yeah.
There's not an awful lot of new stuff out there.
No, there's not a lot of new inventions. And if there are, then like go down the patent route as well, which is, pretty costly. But yeah, there's not a lot of new inventions. So, but we want to find something that's unique, and yeah, it could be done. And maybe it's not done in your area though. Like maybe it's not done in geography.
Yeah. Like you said that right at the beginning. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to put the wheel in somewhere where there's no wheels.
Yeah. Or make it better or different or something like that. Yeah. But many times, I've done it myself. Like I think of something and then I kick myself because I didn't get on the bandwagon. Like I didn't get early enough, and now it's like already way past other people have done it and whatnot.
And then I cut you off before you said financial. So do a lot of people come to you with an idea of, I want to create this thing, or I want to bring this thing to my market because there's a lot of money in it?
Usually they don't say it that way. They just say, I'd like to create another income. I would like it to be my primary income, because they don't want to have that go to the 9-to-5 job anymore, whatever. They want to be their own boss, and they think this is the way to do it. Some people do think that, I'm going to make killing with this new business and there's this huge opportunity. But I don't know. I think you've got to take everything with more caution, because a startup is not easy. It's not for everyone, and it can cost a lot of money to do. So, and not all of them are successful. Like, what is it? 95% of something like 90% of products don't
make it to
succeed.
Market. Yeah.
Right.
Or don't even make it to market.
Oh, don't even make it to market. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, think about it that way. Not to discourage anyone, but I just think that they should go in eyes wide open and know that, there's a cost to it, and they may not make money for the first few years.
But you've given some great alternatives. It's like, why not white label? Why not find somebody who creates the thing? And sometimes they will tweak that thing for you. Like there are whole companies that do white labeling, and it's like, here's our lipstick. Yeah, you want to add this glitter to it? We can do that for you.
Oh, yeah,
or,
exactly.
Here's our skincare. There's some moisturizer. You want to add geranium oil to it? We can do that for you. Like R&D costs so much money from someone who's been down that path, often tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is fine if you've got the money. And if you really do, like you said, have that plan of, where is this going to go in the market? What does it look like? How am I going to get it out there? How am I going to market it? Who am I going to be selling it to? Is it going to big stores? But simply finding someone who's doing the thing that you're doing and saying, hey, can I stick my label on it?
Right.
It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty easy. You can tweak it, or maybe even you can get it formulated and approach a co-packer. Like that's another way, and you don't have to manufacture it yourself. And then you could also collaborate with someone else who's already creating the product.
And I think in retail, it's probably a little bit more common now with the whole influencer type thing. But I think we forget in retail that actually sometimes that's just working with a brand to say, will you do a color in a signature color for me that you only sell to me? Like adding a product to your range doesn't have to be something brand new. It could just be like you said, your little spin on it, your little tweak on it. And it's not going to cost you a lot of money because they already have the process set up. You're just paying for the thing that it costs you. And it's smart business to have even multiples of what we've just been talking about, the white label, these collaborations, wholesale. That's a smart business structure.
For sure. And you're not creating something new. You are actually just leveraging the brand you have, and you're leveraging the audience and the people who are coming to your store. So you're just capitalizing on all that, and you might as well build a product to sell to them.
You were saying leveraging your brand, but sometimes you're leveraging somebody else's brand in those collaborations.
Oh, in the collaborations. Yes, that's true too.
Like they have the people and you're like, hey, do it in my navy blue or my purple or my green, and people who like the green. Because of course then that supplier or that manufacturer says, hey, we've just created this exclusively for XYZ brand, which is going to send a whole bunch of traffic to your website. It's going to send people into your store.
Right.
It's a great way to leverage somebody else's brand exposure, especially if they're bigger than you.
Right, exactly. If you're looking at the influencers out there, they can help with that for sure.
All right. So is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you when it comes to creating, building, adding a product under your own name into your business?
I think what I'd say is I think the last thing is with respect to products, it's a great way to build that recurring revenue stream. So, we talked about consumables, but you're no longer just trading time for money as you sometimes are with service businesses or some businesses or a job, for example. You are creating something, you're duplicating it. And once you make one product, you duplicate it, you sell it again and again. So it's a really great way to build wealth without trading time for money. And then you're also building an asset or a brand that you can eventually sell onwards to another company. So that's another thing that you can do. So I just think it's a really efficient way to build that recurring revenue and alternate income stream.
I love recurring revenue.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Especially recurring revenue that doesn't take any effort.
That's right. That's right.
Or minimal.
Always,
sorry,
I won't. Yeah.
Always some effort.
Always some effort. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's no effort, but yeah.
Cool. Well, if people are interested in hearing more, you have a podcast too, don't you?
I do. You can listen to the Productpreneur podcast on any podcast player. And you can also go to my website, NicoleDeLarzac.com, for resources or to find more about what I do. And then I also have a Facebook group, the Productpreneur Community.
Oh, fantastic. All righty. And that's not just for people who are starting out, is it? That's for people who are just looking at adding products into their range.
That's right. Yes. It's not just for launching something totally new. It's for either building a product or actually building a product business or anything to do with products.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing I love this conversation because when it comes to making more money, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
You're welcome. It's been fun chatting. Thanks so much for having me.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelena and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently or gave you some inspiration or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.